Hello, everyone, and welcome to Sights on Sinnoh. It's been a while. We are getting through this season, and today we are on episode 22 of Sights on Sinnoh, and we're covering episode 38 of the anime. This week I'm joined by Manny. How's it going for you?
Pretty good. I'm back. Last time the viewers heard of me, I go away on my drift loon. We didn't get too far, but
Oh
it was
man.
still a great adventure. So I'm excited to be back here.
I am excited you are too because I want to know where the Drifloon take you, but I'm glad it took you here as the alternative. But as always, if
Yeah.
you are new to this, we are talking, of course, about the Diamond and Pearl anime because Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl are coming out later this year. So we want to take you through a journey that Ash had through Sinnoh before you go on your own. Manny, in this week's episode, we actually cover a location that I thought was done in a very interesting way. Just in general, what are your thoughts about today's episode, which is episode 38, One Big Happiny Family?
Yeah. This for me definitely a fun watch,
Mm-hmm.
and it's interesting that you said that this takes place in a specific location because the sub name for the episode is Explosive Birth Cycling Road.
Ooh.
Yeah, so they're not as big on the puns as the American dub is, but yeah, this is a very for me. I really liked it, and let's just go through it and review and see what we both thought.
Totally. So, a quick blurb here about the episode. Ash and his friends are taking the cycling road toward Hearthome City, and when the weather turns bad, and Brock's Pokemon egg is about to hatch, they quickly take refuge at the nearest Pokemon Center. However, the Nurse Joy at the center has a serious case of the blues. Thanks to the cycling road, everyone pedals right past her Pokemon Center, and she's convinced it's her fault that the place is so empty. With a little encouragement from our heroes, Nurse Joy gets back some confidence in time to help hatch Brock's Pokemon egg, which reveals to be a Happiny. Now, a few things in here. The cycling road is a place in the Pokemon world that we've seen in Kanto, Hoenn, and Sinnoh, if I'm right. I don't think there's any other games that have it after those regions, unless you remember maybe one.
I vividly remember. I remember a lot the one from Hoenn because I think the that cycling road was pretty cool. After that, I don't think so. Yeah, because Kalos had the rollerblades.
Mm-hmm.
Then Alola had the riding Pokemon, and then Galar, I think we had the wild area. So yeah, it might have just been in the Sinnoh games, but I didn't play those, so I wouldn't really go after that.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, I remember this area because it's just south of Eterna City, and you take it to pretty much connect back to Orberg City, which is really nice if you want to go back and now that you have access to the underground, as we discussed in the last episode of Sights on Sinnoh, you can actually take those fossils to get revived and add some new Pokemon to your party, which is pretty neat. An interesting design choice, actually, by the creators of the game. And underneath the cycling road, there's also a cave, I believe called Wayward Cave. And inside you can catch the pseudo legendary for this generation, which is Gibble.
Oh, that's nice. That's cool.
Yeah, it's an interesting little location that if you are kind of just zooming through on your bike, you might not notice that there's an interesting variety of Pokemon and items you can actually find under the cycling road, which is a neat little like reward for exploration, I guess. And in this case for the show, there isn't. It's a very different portrayal because in the games it's very much like a highway or a freeway going over a ton of grass and the cave entrance. But here it's like a regular street basically that goes alongside a cliff and goes just down a regular path in the field. So I thought that was interesting how they still call it that, but it's a very different depiction.
Yeah, and I'm assuming it just went pure downhill because I
Hmm.
don't think I ever saw them pedal once at all.
Yes,
Like they
that
were
is what.
just gliding. So I was like, they must just go straight downhill then.
Yeah, that's a good observation. If you just go on your bike, which you're forced to do when you're on it, you go
Yeah.
directly downhill. You pretty much can like steer, but if you aren't pushing upwards, you're just automatically gonna roll down.
Okay, so yeah, it's just like the cycling road that I remember from the Fire Red game.
Yes, as
Okay.
same as the Kanto games, exactly. You just
Yeah.
go on
Okay.
the road and automatically start rolling.
Yeah. Okay. I remember that one.
Yeah, so interesting that they kind of brought that back because in Hoenn they actually took that out as they made it more like a kind of maze, I guess, where you had to get around trainers and stuff. So that was a cool little feature there. And here it's already very barren compared to the other roads, but we get an interesting conversation to start off with Ash being really excited to be on a bike actually and wants to go all the way to Hearthome, but Don tells him we can't do that because these bikes are rentals and this cycling road ends before we can keep going to Hearthome.
Yeah, and while doing some research, this was actually the first time that Ash found out about what Pikachu had done to Don's bike.
Oh
I
yeah.
thought that
Wait,
was very interesting that it never really came up until this episode. I mean, at least according to my research, but I'm not sure.
I feel like they do bring it up at the lab. Like I remember Ash apologizes because
Oh, that's right. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, Dawn like brings it
yeah.
up or
That's right. That's
something.
true.
So
Yeah, I do remember that.
yeah, I'm wondering if that moment maybe just got glossed over in some of the research that you found, but
Yeah, that probably would have been it.
it is nice that they bring it up though because I think most people would have forgotten by this point.
Yeah, and it's kind of like I guess a small homage to Misty as well.
Mm-hmm.
'Cause she would conveniently always remind Ash whenever she was upset with him.
Mm-hmm.
But Dawn here was pretty okay with it, and they were pretty much enjoying their ride. And what we get next is it goes on to be the main focus of the show.
Yes, because Brock's egg starts actually glowing, which indicates that it's close to hatching, and then begins to rain. So immediately everyone tries to figure out what to do, and they decide to find the nearest Pokemon Center so they have a safe place to let the egg hatch. And I'm actually kind of curious if this is a nod to how you have to take a lot of steps in a Pokemon game to make an egg hatch and what's once they're on their bikes, they're like technically getting a lot more steps for the egg to be closer to hatching.
Yeah, that could be it, right? And
Hmm.
that's a very interesting note that you made because I think Happini, not Happini, Fanfeed probably, if I remember correctly, took a while to hatch, right?
Mm. Hmm.
During the anime, and I can't remember how many episodes before Brock got the egg, but I think it wasn't really that long of a stretch
Yeah, it really wasn't.
in
It
this
was
episode.
like 3 or 4 episodes ago, actually.
Yeah, so yeah, the cycling definitely helped.
Yeah, I like to think that that's a factor. Uh, but here they eventually find a Pokemon Center, quote unquote, because it's barely open. Like the whole place is a disaster. It's dark. They try looking for the Nurse Joy, but they only find a Chansey who's trying to clean up, and she takes them outside to find the Nurse Joy just dramatically standing by a tree as the storm comes overhead.
Yeah, this is a very interesting for me, and I think very unique that he gave this Joy a personality that we, the audience, wouldn't
Hmm.
have expected because we're so used to just the Nurse Joy just healing the Pokemon and not really getting any much personality aside from the last episode that I was on,
Hmm.
the
I
two
was gonna say.
sisters. Yeah, so it was really cool to see this version of a Joy, and then accompanied by her Chansey, whose Japanese name is Lucky. So I think it's a
Right.
nod. Yeah, I think it's a nod to how much XP Chansey gives you, right? Or how rare it was to find in the beginning of the games.
Maybe. I
Yeah,
don't
because
know.
that Chansey is derived from like being getting a chance or
Oh, yeah, because
yeah.
chance, so you get a lucky chance.
So I thought that was really cool. That I thought I at first I thought that was what that Nurse Joy had named her Chansey, but upon looking it up, Chansey's Japanese name is Lucky.
Interesting. Okay. So that was just the name change, and I was like,
Yeah,
oh, that
that's
could be a
just the name.
nickname. Hmm.
Yeah.
And it looks like Chansey is not having a lucky day because Nurse Joy is just depressed, and Brock even stops mid infatuation to kind of figure out what's going on and try to cheer up Nurse Joy and by giving her purpose. He's very much like, we need you to hatch this. We need you to help us hatch this egg, and this egg needs to like have a safe birth, basically.
Yeah.
And the reason she's so sad is because of the cycling road inadvertently taking away people who would normally come to the Pokemon Center to just roll right past it because that's the way it's built for them to keep rolling, as we mentioned earlier.
Yeah, and I like that they did that because it's like a real life situation as to
Mm-hmm.
where small businesses lose their clientele because new highways were made and those highways pass those small businesses, so they lose their business and it was cool to see how it was affecting this Joy as well. That her blaming herself rather than
Mm-hmm.
being like, oh, it's this cycling road. Was what I feel really added to her character that she thought was because of her, not necessarily because of the cycling road.
Exactly. And a good example of this is the movie Cars, actually.
Yes.
That movie is very much about a small town that used to be a tourist destination, completely overlooked once they built the freeway next to it.
Yeah.
So very sad real life implication here of how the cycling road is taking away from local commerce.
Yeah, and I think for a kids show, it's something really cool for
Hmm.
the studio to teach kids about these real life situations. I thought that was a pretty cool thing that they added.
Yeah, and just recently we also had the museum heist episode, and that also had like some police drama in it, and I was like, wow, Pokemon
Yeah.
really stepping it up.
Yeah.
But here, Brock is able to have Nurse Joy step up to the plate and gets her act together to start preparing for the egg to hatch. So she has Dawn go and get towels and Ash to boil some water, and Brock is helping her set up a little exam room to make sure that they're able to monitor the egg as it starts to hatch. So a lot of preparation is going into this egg before we see what's inside of it.
And this is really cool to see because I think this is the first time we've seen an egg hatch this way, like with inside of a Pokemon Center with all this preparation.
I think, yeah, with Vampire's hatch, the last egg I believe we saw hatched was Eevee. May's Eevee, actually, back in Kanto
Yeah.
for the Battle Frontier. And that did have a bit of a similar situation. There's actually a whole plot in there about how there usually is a like egg specialist that helps hatch, but they weren't around. And they had a whole room set up similar to this in the Pokemon Center. But it didn't have as much detail to it. There wasn't like the towels, the water, the heart rate monitor, and all that. It was more just like a dramatic, dramatic egg hatching moment.
Okay. And was Bonsly an egg as well, or did Brock catch it?
I think
Can't
Brock just
remember that.
caught Bonsly actually.
Okay.
Hmm. So this is the first egg I believe we've seen Brock fully own.
Yes, yes, yes.
Hmm.
My memory, yes.
And now Brock immediately becomes the owner and parent of this egg as it hatches into Happiny. And he picks it up and is so cute and delicate with it as he takes it to a bath and he tickles it a little bit, and then dries it off very calmly and very paternal, even.
Yeah, and so my first question is, where did the heart monitors go? Because when the egg hatch, they just magically
Yeah.
disappear. So I thought that was a bit funny, and there was like this cute thing that they did in the sub, and when Ash in the English version Ash says let's check it, to like he's about to use the Pokédex on it. So
Right?
in the Japanese, Blissy's name is Puku. So what Ash does is, because he sees the baby, he's excited, so he goes Puku and showing his excitement. I thought that was really cute, and to see Ash being excited. But I wish the dub would have done something like that as well, instead of just him saying, let's check it out, just
Let's
to
check it
show,
out.
yeah, just to show their excitement, because I think this is also Dawn's probably her first time viewing
Mm-hmm.
egg hatching, so I thought it would have been like made the moment more happy. They added
Mm-hmm.
more cuteness. After this, we find out that there's somebody lurking behind the scenes.
Yes, someone else is in the Pokemon Center, and it's none other than Team Rocket trying to steal some food, as always, in this very deserted Pokemon Center, which kind of works out for them. But they do see that they're preparing for something, our heroes, when I say that. So they are able to get to the door and see the egg hatch into Happiny, which brings up a moment I had completely forgotten about, which is a
Really?
memory that Jesse had. Yeah, I was like, wait, this looks familiar. And they do a momentary flashback to the episode that this is referencing, but
Hmm.
I'm like, wait, what happened? I forgot all the details from that previous episode that they're referencing, because that episode was actually episode 129, which is almost 400 episodes before this one.
Yeah, and I remember. I always, every time I see Jessie, I remember that specific backstory of hers, because I remember watching the episode, and I loved that episode like a lot. So it definitely left memory in the
Nice.
back of my
Okay.
mind. Yeah, because I always liked shows like who caused villains to be who they are,
Mm-hmm.
And I liked when we found out, James was rich, but didn't want to be married. Then finding out, Jesse had aspirations of becoming a nurse, but
Mm-hmm.
Chansey and her, if I remember correctly, she wasn't accepted because she wasn't a joy. Is that her
It's
reasoning?
but
Or-
Wikipedia says because she couldn't use sing. So I don't know what it is anymore. I don't think either of those are accurate. Maybe yours might be it, but
Because
it's very
yeah,
weird
what I
because
remember, yeah, I think there was a bit of discrimination against her and her sister.
yeah.
I think
The,
that's why it left such an impression in me, because it was an episode that I didn't expect, and it made me
mm-hmm.
fond of Jesse a lot. Yeah, the
Yeah,
moment I saw that, it definitely brought back that memory.
right, because the thing that brings back the memory to Jessie is that she has half of what looks like a golden egg plate,
Yeah.
and we see a flashback to a Blissey and her in her younger years, and that whole episode is about her running back into a friend of hers, which is a Blissey, that she went to nursing school with to become a Pokemon nurse. Blissey was able to graduate, but Jessie wasn't, so she's still very passionate
Oh
about
man.
supporting Blissey and making sure that even though Blissey can be very helpful, it causes a lot of problems. Jessie was able to prevent it from getting fired, basically.
Yes. I'm legit getting goosebumps right now, like with you reminding
Aww.
me about this episode. Oh man, I just love that episode so much.
Yeah, totally recommend watching it if you're able to find it. It's called Ignorance is Blissy.
Yes, ignorance is blissy.
And this, of course, inspires Jessie in her villainous ways to kidnap this Happiny and use it to go to nursing school and start a network of Team Rocket Pokemon centers to to, to do She basically says to like commit healthcare fraud.
Yeah, I thought that was very funny. He tells me
Yeah.
how that he's gonna help out with the insurance claims.
Yes.
Yeah, and it was definitely funny because in the Japanese, she just tells him that Meowth is just gonna be their Pokemon translator.
Oh, really?
Yeah, her telling him in English that he's gonna help out with the insurance was pretty funny.
Yeah, it's a fun bit that like goes from being very emotional to being very real.
Yeah, I like that there's still that, like, she still holds that Blissey dear in her heart, even
Hmm.
though her motivations aren't necessarily what most
Pure.
of us would do. Yeah, for
Hmm.
her they are pure because Blissey meant a lot to her.
Yeah, exactly. And we see the bond here not between Happini and Jesse in this case, but now between Brock and Happini as it starts crying. So Brock thinks it maybe wants a stone to hold. Because what is interesting about this is that we see Happini hatch, and it's not holding its oval stone that it normally has. If you hatch it in the games or just encounter it in the battle or in the wild, it always has this. And there's a Pokédex entry. There's a Pokédex entry that says Happini loves white round things, and it looks like it's because it's trying to imitate its evolved form, which is Chansey.
Yeah, which they mention as well.
Yes, Nurse Joy makes that observation. So Brock says, "All right, let's go outside and look for some stones." But Happini starts crying the minute Brock leaves. So instead, Ash and Dawn volunteer to go and look for some stones themselves. So they come back with like a huge bucket of stones on wheels, and
Yeah,
Brock sorts through them to find one that's a good shape and size and starts to mold it into a round stone using a like stone grinder, which for
yeah,
some reason is at this Pokemon Center.
yeah. It's always funny when the characters can pull something out of thin air, and you're just left
Yeah.
wondering, like, wait, has that always been there? Um, but yeah, this episode, not only did it focus on Joy, but it also reminded me as to why I've always loved the character of Brock so much, because he knows Pokemon.
Mm-hmm.
Breeding feel like is not just like his goal, but his life.
Right.
He cares for Pokemon, not even though he might not know them. Like if he were to find
Mm-hmm.
a Bidoof, injured, wouldn't bat an eye. He'd go up to it and treat it and care for it. And I know that the I'm getting confused. In the dub, say that he wants to become a breeder, but in the sub they acknowledge him as a breeder.
Oh, okay.
I like that because Ash always acknowledges him, like, yeah, that's why you're a breeder, Brock.
Mm-hmm.
I
Interesting.
always yeah, I've always loved when they focus on Brock because I feel like he doesn't get as much credit as he should.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
I think it's because the whole hitting on the girls is what hinders him. But
Mm-hmm.
if you take that away and you focus on him as a trainer, him as a person, him as a friend, and as a mentor and as a breeder, he's a really, really good character.
And we see that a lot in this episode where for most of the episode he's actually trying to encourage Nurse Joy and not trying to
Yes.
flirt with her at all.
Yeah.
Which is kind of refreshing take on it. And Team Rocket, of course, comes in to ruin the day by stealing Happini, or as Brock is trying to bond with it and give it its stone. And as they start taking off, Jesse starts playing with Happini, basically. They cover their tracks using Cacnea's Sandstorm on our heroes down below. But during this whole mess, Happini like clings onto the side of the balloon, and then Wildfit tries to pull it down, and then Jesse tries to pull it down until it rips a hole in the balloon and sends it flying. But before we catch up with what happens with Team Rocket and Happini, we cut back to our heroes who are running with Nurse Joy, and she immediately is depressed again because she blames herself for Happini being kidnapped.
Yeah, and this is where again, just for me, that reminder of Brock the character. Like, we see two Pokemon pop out and they're injured,
Mm-hmm.
and instead of like trying to knock some sense into her in a very using tough love, he does it in a way that lets her know like, hey, these Pokemon need you. You might not have clients coming in, but there's
Mm-hmm.
Pokemon here in the forest that need your help, and only you can help them because your center is here. And again, it's just with the whole flirting aside, just shows that how encouraging he is. But one weird, I guess, error they did was Ash tells his Staravia to use Whirlwind,
Mm-hmm.
blow away the sand, but in the sub he says use Gust.
Right.
I guess maybe they forgot they were both different moves.
This actually was noted before even when I think it was a Starly, but there's a note saying that in the dub they call it Whirlwind because Starly can't learn Gust.
Oh, really?
So yeah, so in the dub it's interesting. They actually correct it by giving a move that's similar to it that it can learn. And there are some moments where they actually do call it Gust in the dub, but for the
Mhm.
most part it's they try to remember to change that word to Whirlwind.
Okay, and so I remember that I had talked to you, I think, even before, way probably back in episode 1, of the differences in the motto for Team Rocket.
You're
So I
right.
was wondering, yeah, if you and I could go over it, just because I want to see if to you it makes sense, because I think the English version for me makes more sense, because I know that a lot of us had a bit of a problem with English motto because we were so used to the original one.
Mm-hmm.
But I do prefer this one over the sub, because it kind of doesn't make sense to me. I just want to see if it makes sense to you, like if it flows for you, if you want to go over it just to see.
So I have it pulled up here, and it'll be interesting because it's just very much a translation of it and
Yeah.
not the localization version. But it reads, "We hear voices saying this and that," which is, I believe, Jesse's line.
Yeah, that's Jesse. And then it says, "We come along in a swift current of light.
The wind,
Land."
the sky, uh, and is that me or you? Oh,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
me
that's
again.
you.
Okay.
Yeah.
The danger we will deliver to the world,
Crisis we will convey to the universe.
whether angels or demons. If you call the name,
Captivating echo that shakes everyone.
Musashi, who's Jesse,
Kojiro, James, and
and
Niarth, who's Meowth.
yeah, Nyarth, Meowth. I guess I
Yeah.
see the how they sound similar there. And then the stars of the era are us,
We are the invincible
Team
Team Rocket.
Rocket,
And Wobbuffet.
Sansu, Wabafet.
Yeah, the Wobbuffet. Son Nansu.
Yeah,
So,
what are your questions about it?
do you feel like this flows for you?
I,
Because the thing is, every time I watch it, like, it just doesn't resonate as much for me.
mm-hmm.
It
And
just feels like,
it could be also part of the translation there.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
the earth, the wind, sky, the wind, the land, and the sky part easily reflects the on the wind past the stars in your ear, part of the motto. But the part of the middle about like the captivating echo and demons, if they all feel like individual lines that don't necessarily go
yeah,
together.
yeah, and that's been the kind of like the disconnect that I've had with that
Mm-hmm.
subs motto. So I just wanted to see if you got in the same way that I did, or if maybe you understood it a bit more than I did.
No, I think I'm in the same place as you. I'm just
Yeah.
like, I'll just stick with the localized version of
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. So yeah, I just wanted to go over that, and I liked also the whole Jesse offering the Happiny the Rock.
Yes, because we
And
cut back
Happiny just
to Jesse and all Team Rocket trying to make Happiny happy, And James actually is the one who brings over all these rocks because he knows about it, at least a little bit. And Jesse tries to bribe Happini basically, but it's not having any of it.
Yeah, and then it gets to the point where she wants to hurt
Yeah,
Happini. Her
and
frustration.
they have to stop her from harming this baby.
Yeah.
And then our heroes all catch up, and we get into a battle with Chansey actually being involved as it uses Egg Bomb. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. We actually see Chansey in action.
Yeah, again, just we're used to just seeing assistant Chansey.
Mm-hmm.
Seeing it as a Pokemon that battles was just a fresh take on it and very enjoying.
Yeah, we saw Cheryl's Chansey do a little bit of battling, but I think this is a lot more intense as it sends out Egg Bomb.
Yeah.
But they are starting to lose, and Happini is scared and mad and wants to go back to Brock, but they keep blocking the way until it gets a burst of strength and just charges through all of Team Rocket's Pokemon and through Team Rocket themselves to get to Brock. And that's when all Team Rocket tries to attack at once, and Ash just has Pikachu use Volt Tackle, which I thought was a really good little showing there because he blasts through all the attacks that they are launching at him.
Yeah, Pikachu was very serious this episode just for that one.
Yes.
And also the motivation of Happini seeing Brock and Sudowoodo being taken down.
Mm-hmm.
And the show showing us just exactly the strength of Happini.
Right, because that's the kind of reveal here is that this baby Happini is actually incredibly strong.
Yeah, and it's, I think, to this point, it's probably Brock's strongest Pokemon.
Yeah, in terms of like
physical strength.
Right, physical strength compared to size, especially.
Which I think they did just to give that Happini distinguishing characteristic.
Exactly, yeah. It's very innocent and super strong, and just a cutie all around. So this leads to Team Rocket blasting off, and Brock finally able to give Happini its iconic White Stone, which Happini really loves, and immediately tries to give to Brock, because as the Pokédex says, Happini likes to give its stone to people that it is friendly with and likes. But Brock's like, oh, that's so sweet of you, but let's keep it where it is. And that kind of explains why Happini keeps the stone.
And for that, I think we can kind of come to the conclusion that that stone is even more special for Happini now, knowing that it gave it to its trainer.
Right, exactly. It has some meaning to it. Not as something that it got from Brock, but now as something that Brock has trusted with it. Because it tried giving it back.
And maybe now, because we know that Happini's try to imitate Chansey's, maybe this Happini tries to imitate Brock is.
Because Brock's the breather, yeah. It has a lot in common with Nurse Joy now. But yeah, now the episode kind of wraps up with Happini showing its strength by tossing Brock in the air again. And Brock's immediately like, oh man, it's gonna be a wild time. And then asks Happini formally to join him and have a lot of fun together. So he puts it in its Pokeball. And it's really cute. I love how he's like so fatherly with this Happini.
Yeah, and I like that the series kind of answered my question because I had remembered that Brock had Bonsly and Happini. I wasn't sure if he had them both in the same series at one point, because I did remember him having the Bonsly and I did remember him having the Happini. In my mind, I wasn't sure if they were both in the Battle Frontier or if it was in Diamond and Pearl. I'm glad that this episode answered my question that technically yes, because his Bonsly is now a Sudowoodo.
Right.
But yeah, it was very, very good to for the show to have that answered my question.
Do you think they evolved Bonsly into Sudowoodo because they didn't want Brock to have two cute baby Pokemon at once?
Yeah, that's definitely my guessing because I
Mm-hmm.
think it probably for the character it would have been definitely a handful because we know Happini is a bit of a crybaby. Oh, not Happini, Vampi
Yeah.
is a bit of a crybaby, whereas
Mm-hmm.
Happini is just energetic and very strong.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely would have been trouble for him, but it would have been funny to see Uncle Krogunk trying to help out Brock.
Yeah, that'd be really
And
cute.
yeah, and we kind of skipped over my favorite scene, which was when the rain starts and you just see Krogunk playing with a mushroom, all
Yeah.
bored. Just man, I just love Krogunk as a character. Just, every time I see Krogunk, I just can't stop but laugh.
Yeah, he's that character that's like there but not really part of anything.
Yeah,
This is pretty much the last of the episode as they start leaving the Pokemon Center and jump back on their bikes and keep going down the road. So it's a interesting little segment that they didn't have to really connect with the cycling road, but did in a really interesting way.
definitely. Yeah, I'm glad that cycling road was just the push that we needed to get us to the real main focus, the whole story, which was the Pokemon Center.
Mm-hmm.
So it was definitely, I feel like, on purpose as a choice.
Right. They could have left it out, but this gives it a lot more strength and context to.
Yeah, because they could have been like, "Oh, we need to get back on the road," or this and that, but it was the cycling road. I think maybe just for well, the games came out after, right? So the dub.
They came out like I think a week or two after the dub first came out. Yeah.
Okay, so then maybe it was just for like fan service that they put the
Hmm.
cycling road there. Again,
Yeah.
it was what led us to the actual focus of the show.
Right. They definitely were like, oh, let's acknowledge that if you have to leave Eterna City in the games, you have to go down this road, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
But they do leave a disconnect because Dawn says this road ends at the next town. And
Yeah.
technically that would be Orberg City, but it looks like they don't actually go back there. There's like some new anime town that they stop at before.
Okay, so that town is an anime original town.
Right. Orberg is the
Okay.
original gym, and like when you go down the cycling road, you get to a new route, and then right after that you get to Orberg City again. But the reason you couldn't go from Orberg City up to the cycling road is because you need a bicycle actually that is fast enough to go up a specific ramp. So that's like the in-game mechanic is once you have a bike, you can go back and forth between those really easily. But before you have one, you can't get there. So that's why you have to go all the way around to Floraroma to get to Eterna City.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So really fun dynamic, and I think is what makes this game and region a lot less linear. Is that a lot of the routes kind of interconnect like this and have a cycle that you can go through.
Interesting.
So yeah, it's a really fun geography to the games in general. But do you know about Hapini's connection to the game?
No, I do not.
So you actually do get a Hapini egg in Diamond and Pearl, I believe in Hearthome City.
Oh,
Generally, almost every Pokemon game you get an egg
yeah.
to hatch, and like the most iconic one is probably Togepi. Then in Hoenn it was Wynot, and now for this region it is Hapini, and this is how you can get Hapini for the first time in the game.
Okay. Well, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's really nice. And the difference is in Platinum, you actually get a Togepi as an egg from Cynthia.
Really?
Yeah, because she has a
And
Togekiss.
oh, okay. Yeah, I was about to ask, do you know the reasoning
Hmm.
why? Okay, that's interesting.
And for the Harpini, it's just like a hiker who gives you this egg. It's really random, actually. But yeah, that's kind of the reference here is that in the games, you will get a Harpini egg.
It's cool. That's a really cool nod to the game.
Yeah, and it's nice that they also connected to Brock and being a breather.
Yeah.
So pretty solid overall. But if you had to give a rating to this episode, 38, one big Happiny family, what do you think you'd give it?
I give it a solid 7. Really enjoyed this episode a lot. Up to this point, it's probably my favorite of the series that I've reviewed with you.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, I just don't know what it is about this episode that just
Wait.
left me
You mean it's
enjoying it a lot.
better than the Suicune episode? How
Don't get
dare
me.
you?
I'm gonna be started on that episode again.
Oh
Well, we don't
man.
have the time.
We
Uh,
don't.
yeah, I maybe it was because you brought up the whole Jesse's backstory that
Mm-hmm.
it resonated with my heart. But I'm gonna give it a solid 7 because I don't want to give it too high of an episode because, like I said before, there's probably gonna be episodes that are gonna be
Mm-hmm.
at least better than this. But for me right now, it's my personal favorite. Yeah, I'll just leave it at a solid 7.
Yeah, I would give it a 7 too, actually. I think it does a nice job of mixing up the formula a lot with Brock and incorporates some of the in-game stuff and even references a lot of old uh Pokemon anime lore with Jesse's backstory. So
Yeah.
overall a cool mix of things that I wasn't expecting. But what is interesting is that just a few episodes ago, back in the museum episode, they also had a character that was referenced from the Kanto region, which is the Viridian City officer Jenny. So I wonder if they just had like the itch or urge to include some old characters or references in these few episodes.
Yeah, and we did see, when the Poketch was introduced, the character was shown.
Oh yes,
Marina, if I remember correctly, from Pokemon Chronicle. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, we'll get to that. But this has been it for episode 22 of Sights on Sinnoh. Let me double check that. I'm like all over the place. Yes, 22, and we were talking about episode 38, One Big Happiny Family. As always, feel free to subscribe for any other alerts that we have on the new episodes as we upload them on our way to Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. Manny, thank you so much for being here today.
Always a pleasure. And before I go, I would like
Yes.
to share what is known as a Pokemon Senryu by none other than Professor Oak himself.
Oh.
And for our listeners who are asking, what's a Senryu is kind of like a haiku. It's like a maybe a 3-line, maybe sometimes 5-line or 7-line poem. It doesn't rhyme at all. For this
Interesting.
episode,
Okay.
because we were introduced to Happiny, I would like to share a bit of poem and maybe encourage our listeners, if you can somehow activate magical background music.
I'll see.
Hands, open up your ears. Oh, nice. Happiny falls asleep with its oval stone.
Beautiful.
I have touched your souls, fans. I have touched your souls.
There we go. And that's a great way to end off this episode. So, as always, stay tuned for new things as we upload them here on YouTube. And feel free to let us know below what you thought about Happiny's birth into the world of Pokemon. I've been Will.
This is Manny.
And we'll see you in Sinnoh. Until next time.
So long.